Kambon actually means tall, quiet warrior of the people. And I'm freshly out of prison after doing 52 years. It was a hard struggle, basically because I went in having no idea of what slavery was. You know, I'm serious. Growing up, slavery never entered our lexicon anywhere I was at. It didn't seem. They had to mention it in school. It would seem like, you know, with George Washington and cherry trees and all that. But it just never entered my mind until I read a book. I believe it was George G. Jackson, African of Ages of Gold and Silver, something like that. But when I read how the people, our people, Africans, were snatched up from the continent and brought to, you know, to all these different other places outside their homes with no knowledge of who they were, with, you know, people coming to their land and just snatching them up, and it just hit me. It hit me real hard, right? To the point of where I started looking at whites in a whole different light than I grew up in San Francisco, right? I was born in San Francisco, Fillmore, and I grew up in San Francisco where you didn't see that kind of racism. You know, the racism wasn't prevalent. They kept it on the under. You know what I mean? They really kept it on the under because I'm serious. I was dating white girls, you know, going to skating rinks, bowling alleys, and stuff like that with them, and I just never saw the, you know, that, you know, I didn't hear all that growing up. Only ones I heard saying that was black folks. You know, that was all I used to hear saying it. Yeah, but still, I take that back because I do recall that I was in a park once with a couple of the brothers up there at Fulton Park in Frisco, and we came across these white dudes, and as we was talking to them, something got out of line. Well, one of the white guys said something about it, hit him in his mouth, you know, and had his tooth was stuck in my knuckle, you know, but I hit him in his mouth, and I do recall that right there. But as I said, you know, I never saw any real racism in San Francisco. So that was how I grew up. Even in the schools, like, and also I was in and out of youth authority. Like, I went to the youth authority about 6 times. Even before that, I was in a reform school. You know, at 9 years old, I was in a reform school. I had to snatch a bag of cookies and run out of the store, and the clerk caught me and held me for the police. So they ended up sending me to Amline Ranch, and Amline Ranch was actually a ranch owned by a family, the Amline, and they had race horses and mares, jackasses, donkeys and stuff, you know. So I learned how to saddle and ride and everything while I was there. But what ended up happening is because it didn't have a fence around it, the youngsters was taking off, you know, and they was I don't know, running home or just running off. But whenever the Amlines would catch them, they would take them and strip them, tie them to a gurney, and beat them with a ruler, butt naked. They would beat them with a ruler. So one of the youngsters reported it to his family, and when he reported it, they shut the ranch down and let me go home. Yeah, they let me go home, but they shut the ranch down. But then it wasn't long after that I was in trouble again, you know. But anyway, I went through the youth authorities, Frico, Nellis, Paso Robles, and Tracy as a youth authority. But when I went to Tracy in '68, I was there with murderers and stuff, right? But I was a youth authority. But, you know, just looking at me, you wouldn't have probably been able to tell because I was so tall and skinny and stuff. And I was on the line with these guys, and that was the first time I had heard about nationalists. These brothers used to meet over by the swimming pool, and have political education classes, and I would go sit in on them, and just listen to what they were saying. I didn't really pay that much attention. The only one thing that did stick with me from that is Swahili words. They used a bunch of, not a bunch, but they used a lot of Swahili words, like, greetings and chalewa and stuff like that, right? And so I did pick a little bit of that up, But when I get to the prison, as I said, I started reading about slavery and things, and then I met some of the brothers on the yards. I was locked up in 71 after they killed George, August the 23rd, because I wrote a letter saying that George was, let me go back a little bit. While I was at San Quentin, I joined the San Quentin branch of the Black Panther Party. Our captain was a brother out of San Francisco named Cleveland Brooks at the time. Okay, so, like I was on the yard with Jerry Petrie, the artist, and all these guys, right? I had a chance to meet Emery and his brother Landry. We was acting as his bodyguard while he was there. He was waiting to go to Connecticut to trial, and a couple of brothers, Panther brothers, acted as his bodyguard while he was there. Okay. From that point, a sister by the name of Pamela Perkins, that was a Black Panther, was trying to educate me about dialectics, right? And she was giving me lessons through the mail, and she came up to visit me a couple of times because they called out Brother Landry, and they wanted his security to be out there with him. So they called me out a couple of times with him, and I got a chance to meet a couple of people out there. I met a Feeney, and I met a couple of good Panthers from back in the day that was really involved with the movement and things, right? But anyway, during this time, I write this letter after they murdered George, and that's what I basically said, was that they murdered George. And on the 23rd of August, 71, they locked me up and said that I was a black militant. They said I was a black militant.
For that letter? For that letter.
And they sent me out of San Quentin. They transferred me to Tracy. I didn't get it. They transferred me to a lesser, a medium institution from San Quentin after saying I was a black militant. But anyway, I go to Tracy, come to find out I can have family visits and all that, So I'm getting my family visits, but at this time I meet the brothers Charles Gardner, meet Terry Catfish, Bruce, Shaka Benin. That's where I first met Shaka Benin. Dorsey Nunn. And Dorsey and Shaka were like the agitators, because they always was talking about strikes and stuff, right? Always talking about strikes and what they were doing to the prisoners and all this. And and me and Shaka started hanging out together, right? And we started hanging out together, and this one time he calls this strike. Everybody lays down. They lay down. They don't go to chow and all that. So the police come in, and for some, I guess they had one of his letters that he had put out to tell everybody about the strike. But they came in our building, and while we were in the day room, they was going cell to cell, and they came out of Shaka's cell and said, "Bingo!" Apparently, they found matching right. Okay, so they came out. They told Shaka they was going to take him to the hole. Shaka went into the day room where we were all at and told us what was happening. And he told us, "I'm not going to the hole by myself." So we all stood up. And when the guards saw that it was getting ready to be some drama behind taking him, they backed off, until they could get him alone, of course, But they backed off until he went in the cell. When he went in the cell, they come and took his butt to the hole, But anyway, this was my first meeting with Shaka, Lil Charles, Terry Williams, Bruce Thompson, Jeezy from Frisco. And all these brothers that I'm mentioning now, Dorsey and everybody, were instrumental in trying to stop these young brothers from ripping each other off, raping each other, and all that stupid thing. It was total madness up there, bro. Well, amongst the brothers, it was total madness. They were raping each other and shit, and we decided we had to do something about it. So
and this is the early 70s.
This is 73, 72 and 73, 72 and 73, yeah. And while I was there, a lot of stuff was going on in terms of back and forth stabbings with whites and Mexicans and all this kind of thing, right? And out of the clear blue, the guards come one day and they tell me, like, these brothers I'm talking about, named off, they were brothers that was instrumental in really bringing a halt to the black-on-black foolishness that was going on up there at the time. And like Dorsey, he's always been an organizer. He was on those MAC committees, representing not just the blacks, but everybody, right? And that was the way Dorsey used to push. He would work for all prisoners and not just single out. Whereas, Shaka, he was straight up nationalist, even though on the strike thing, everybody was included, on the strike thing. But anyway, they end up sending me back they pull me to committee and they tell me that they got information that I had supposedly been involved in murders and stabbings. And I'm in the committee and I'm telling them, what are you talking about? I'm going on family visits and things. What would I be caught up in something like that for? And they say, well, we getting these notices and these getting word that you're this, you're that. I don't know where it was coming from, right? But anyway, they end up putting me up to go to Folsom. And Folsom turned me down because they said I was too young. They didn't want me there. So I ended up going back to San Quentin, but to the general population. So they let me back in San Quentin, not get out to the general population. So I was good. I was back in San Quentin. I'm from Frisco. I was close to the house. I'm in the Bay Area, Excuse me. So anyway, after that, I get back to San Quentin. I'm there for a while, and there's some drama where a brother gets murdered, a brother gets killed. They lock me up along with two other brothers for it. I don't get a write-up. They don't give me a write-up. They get the other two write-ups, but I don't get a write-up. And at the time when they locked me up, I knew what they locked me up for, but I hadn't been told, I hadn't been given any
documentation.
Infraction. Yeah, no documentation of any kind. And because of that, I just like, why am I here? Why am I here? Finally, Sergeant Wilkes came up and told me that people said I was involved in killing Brother Cross. I told him, I said, well, people are wrong. I was in the area when it happened, but I was nowhere near where it happened, And the area was like, they had poker tables, chess, domino, just a game area, a little rec area. And that's where bro ended up getting killed at the time. I was over there playing poker, I believe. But anyway, I get locked up for that. Wills come tell me what it was. Then, I think maybe a week later, they find a visiting ducket, in some pants pocket, and some crossed blood on the pants. So now they got the individual that did it, they believe. And once I found out, I heard about this, I asked them, well, can I be released now? They didn't release me. They sent me to the adjustment center. right? I go to the adjustment center. I don't meet Doc Holliday, but I'm talking to him in the toilet. You know, I don't really meet him, but I am talking to him in the toilet. And I had seen him in the visiting room when I was on visits, when I was in the general population. He was behind the glass. I had seen him, and he had been pointed out to me. But anyway, I'm talking to Doc through the toilet. I forgot to mention, the day that they moved me, December the 19th, 1974, the Mexicans attacked the brothers in D section. But I wanted to get back to Mata, because that brother was very instrumental in the growth of many brothers in San Quentin. Mata, I did time with him in the general population, in the adjustment center, in Max B. We were also, we were in Pelican Bay together, but I don't think I ever got to see Mata while I was in Pelican Bay, even though we were writing back and forth, legal stuff. We were writing back and forth. But Mata was one of the mainstays. Mata was one of the brothers that opened a lot of our eyes through the forms of forming these cadres, political classes, and things like that. And Mata was one person, he used to always tell me that he could talk to anybody, you know. Always, he said, I could talk to anybody. I don't care if it's a senator, president, scientist. Mata said he could talk to everybody. And I believe him, you know, I believe him, because he was a very charismatic individual, you know, very charismatic. Straightforward, and he didn't bite his tongue. Mata, you see what he was talking about, ability and need, right? Each according to his ability, each according to his need. You go to Mata, and you're in need of anything, no problem. But if you want something, take that somewhere else. If you need, I got you. You know, but if you're just sitting up here wanting, when you could go out there and do something else to get that, you know. But yeah, Mata was he was one of those kind of individuals that really pushed a hard line, and was very, very educational, and very instrumental in the brothers coming to where we are today, being at where we are today, you know. And like I say, they're letting a lot of brothers out now. So it's gonna be some things that's gonna change out here. We're gonna get in our groove in a minute, you know, because I'm telling you, there's some very talented brothers that was in that shoe. What's happening now, they starting to let a lot of us out now. Even though a lot of us are infirm and all that, some of us can still think, you know, and some of us still got a few years left in them, you know. Like, I'm pretty sure they had it in their mind for me to come out here and die. And the reason I'm sure of it, because I had blood clots in my lung, in my leg when they let me out. And I didn't know they were there. You know, all that time I'm sitting up, I'm going getting examined by them and everything. Never knew the blood clots were there. I go to the bank after I get out. I got out in August of 2021, 3rd day of August. I go to the bank. I'm getting ready, you know, I kept my stimulus checks and stuff that they gave me when I was inside. I kept my stimulus checks and all that, so they gave it to me in the form of a check. And I take my check to the bank, and I'm just getting through the door, and my son-in-law, he was getting ready to turn me around, and he said he looked over, and the next thing you know, I was on the floor, you know. And I felt myself bending over, but I didn't feel myself hit the floor. Now I looked up, I'm looking outside the bank door. I'm like, what the hell? What I'm doing down here, you know? But anyway, I go to the hospital and they tell me I got blood clots in my lungs. First time I find out about it. And they didn't tell me about the one in my leg till later, you know, but they told me I had blood clots in my lung. And they put me on the heparin. Now I'm on Eliquis every day, you know. And to me, it's just, that was another way that the CDC was getting ready to try to get rid of my butt, you know. They let me go all this time, and then all of a sudden, hey, you can go home now. this is what they're doing in terms of holding on to people so long. California, in terms of keeping them locked up for so long, you know, don't make any damn sense at all. Don't make any sense at all, because their laws, even their policies, all this tell them that once the person is done being punished, once the punishment is over with, they should be free to go. But that's not what the California Department of Corrections do. They hold people at their own discretion, and a lot of times that discretion will be because of something in their case that one of those commissioners ain't feeling. You know what I mean? To do with the law. It got nothing to do with the punishment. It got something only to do with how that commissioner feels about that person. You know, and they take it out on them by keeping them locked behind those bars. Yeah, they take it out on them by keeping them locked behind. Here's one of the things that happened when they killed George. The brother come to my cell, like I was on the 5th tier, so he came to the 4th tier and stood on the rail and popped his head up over the rail. And he told me, he said, man, if they kill George, it's on. And he left. That was Cleveland told me that, right? And he left. And so I'm like, right on, right on. Then next thing you know, I hear, oh, they murdered George and all these other people that came up missing too, right? But like I say, they ended up putting me in ASEG and sending me to Tracy. But what they did do, I'm talking about the guards, the people they were bringing back to the main line, the blacks, they was taking them and busting them up, beating them up bad. You know, and then hold them, let them heal, and send them out to the main line. You know? And I kept hearing about this, and I was like, well, what happened to the Panthers? So anyway, I go back in '73. They sent me back to San Quentin, and I'm in the general population. And so the Panthers were still there, but I wasn't a Panther anymore. You know, the Panthers were still there. And Cleveland wasn't a Panther no more. The captain, he wasn't a Panther no more. And so I'm talking to him, and he's telling me about, how did he put it? The way he put it, like they threw a coup. That's the way he put it, right? And so the guy he was talking about, I didn't know him. I had no idea who he was, right? But apparently Petrie and them knew him. They catered to him and stuff, right? And when I asked Flip, the brother named Flip, about him, Flip told me that as far as he knew, he was just a brother out of Los Angeles. He didn't know nothing else about him. Because Flip was from LA himself, right? But he didn't know anything else about it. But anyway, all those people that was catching those police guard killings at that time won their cases on appeal and got out, all the way up until that one. And this one, they didn't get the person that did the killing. They got the person they claimed killed him and gave him the police killing. Yeah. And he get ready to come off death row in a minute, I guess, because they get ready to let all them guys off. But what happened anytime those guards put a lick down like that on the brothers inside, there was always some form of retaliation, always, you know. And a lot of the brothers used to look at that and something similar to what the BLA was doing on the streets, right? But I told him, I said, well, you can't really look at it like that, you know, because they're out there and they really have a choice, and you have a choice in here too, but look at our surroundings, you know. It's not that hard to really walk up and, well, I guess it depends on your mind state, but it's not that hard to do that, you know. And so a lot of brothers thought because of that, they were political prisoners. You see what I'm saying? And that was not how it was looked at, because their crime before what they did here, I guess obscured or made them non-eligible or whatever, as far as like shooting them brothers on the yard, W.L. Nolan and them, you know, and trying to make it sound like it was something that was justified, that they had to do. You know, and the guy, he didn't have to fire a shot at all, you know, not at all. And nobody would have came, probably wouldn't have been nobody scratched. A fist fight at the most, you know? Yeah. But he took it upon himself to murder them, and the response was, you know, we can all die. You know, you can die just like we can die. Because he's up there in that tower don't mean nothing, because they got to be on that floor with us. At some time, they got to be on that floor. And, you know, some of the brothers felt like the way that the guards were being dealt with inside, they felt like they were making political statements. So they felt they should be called political prisoners, right? There was always a debate when I used to read those Bulldog newspapers out of Canada. Remember those?
I'm not familiar with
Not
them.
familiar with them? Okay, well, they used to send this newspaper out of Canada called the Bulldog, and a lot of the brothers from inside of California prisons was writing to brothers all over the United States. And one of the main things that used to go on with them is they would always have this debate about who was to be considered a political prisoner. I never gave it any thought, right? I never looked at political. Either you was gonna be a part of the struggle or you ain't. You know, you gonna work within the frameworks of some kind of standards of ethics, you know, morals and whatnot, principles. But for some reason, the stigma, I ain't gonna say the stigma, for some reason the thought of being known as a political prisoner made some people feel, I guess, more involved, I guess. I don't know, you know, but in my mind, it was just a name, political prisoner. That was it, you know. The only thing I saw that was different for political prisoners than it was for the brothers in California is the support. You know, they had a lot of support. I mean, we had support as well. We had support as well, but a lot of our support was like individual support. Like, for instance, only reason people really know I exist is because I used to write the baby. Other than that, they wouldn't even knew I existed. But all the time, I got people fighting on my behalf to get me out of prison. You know, like, for instance, I dealt with California Prison Focus. I've been dealing with them since '94. I dealt with Dorsey with his, life prisoners with children, or whatever the name.
Legal services for prisoners with
children. Legal
yeah.
services with prisoners with children. There you go. I dealt with them, and that was the most help I got, because every time I dealt with them, I was dealing with attorneys. You know, everyone that I wrote was an attorney, and Dorsey would always tell them to, you know, look out for if you can do it, look out for it, you know. And they did. You know, basically what I would ask of them was to find legal cases, you know, because I was looking for legal precedent and stuff like that, right? So that's basically what I would ask them to do. But I had this going on since '94 at least. Since '94, I was doing this, reaching outside. Once we got inside of Pelican Bay Prison, I mean, some of the dudes made it that didn't have anybody out there because they were in a pod where everybody shared, you know. And that's what ended up happening up there in Pelican Bay. They had us up there so long, we started sharing with one another. We started getting to know one another, whites, blacks, Mexicans, in so-called leadership positions of these organizations and parties or gangs or whatever you want to call them. And these dudes, they let us come together and put our heads together. And then you got these brothers, you know, we always looking for that way out. And when we told them about the hunger strike, I was surprised that they took to it. I didn't want to be involved. I ain't gonna lie. I wasn't getting ready to starve myself and kill myself for the satisfaction of the system. You know what I mean? Cause that's what I told them straight up. Man, these people looking at you clapping their hands. Yeah, look at this fool getting ready to kill himself.
So that was your first reaction when you first heard about it.
You know what changed my mind?
Yeah.
Dorsey Nunn. I'm sitting up here. I'm not even a part of the hunger strike, bro. I'm serious. I'm nowhere near this hunger strike except for the fact that I was in the cell with Baridi, who was a representative. Dorsey come up and visit the hunger strikers. They get ready to set it off. He had something like an hour and a half left. He called me out. And I spent that last hour and a half out there talking to Dorsey. So when I came in, the warden said I was the leader of the hunger strike and locked my butt up and had sex. And I told Dorsey, yeah, he convinced me I was part of the hunger strike. I'm gonna do this, you know. But anyway, they locked me up as being one of the major players because I had spent all that time in the visiting room with Dorsey that day. He came up and they went and dropped the paperwork on the warden, and then letting them know that the hunger strike was on, you know. And turned out to be very, very successful. You know, turned out to be very, very successful. And matter of fact, I'd like to play something on that hunger strike, if you don't mind, from a brother inside, Lewis Powell.
Revolutionary greetings. My name is Lewis Powell. I'm currently being held in Lancaster Prison in Los Angeles County. I am one of the 16 representatives of the historical hunger strike of 2013. On this 10th anniversary, I want to share with you all the historical significance as well as the ripple effect that led to a series of foreseen and unforeseen occurrences. The historical significance being the commonality of behavior and interest of a once racially diverse group of prisoners coming together in one accord towards bringing an end to indefinite solitary confinement. It was day one of refraining from consuming of life-sustaining food that the birth of the human rights movement was born inside a California concentration camp. Unwavering as the four main representatives made the ultimate sacrifice of successfully leading 30,000 California prisoners in an unseemly end to decades of solitary confinement. Today, 10 years later, the ripple effects are still being felt across the United States with the end of solitary confinement. Of course, it is what it costs. But the CDCR and its parole authority is still selective in retaliation against participants in general and especially against the representatives in particular. In public, the CDCR secretary will acknowledge the years and definitely decades of holding human beings under solitary confinement was and is a cruelty against humanity. However, in private, the CDCR secretary and the parole authority does not hold an ounce of empathetic understanding for the victims of state-sanctioned torture of its prisoners of conscience. Today, as a prisoner of conscience, many of the participants of the historical hunger strike are still facing a special brand of vindictive punishment for daring to struggle and daring to win. Irrespective to the ongoing denial of parole suitability under the color of undemocratic politics, myself and other victims of decades of mental and physical torture, we continue to remain steadfast in solidarity as the phenomenal effect of the hunger strike created a basic trust that superseded the power of divide and conquer. Yes, it is in solidarity that we, the representatives, continue to struggle in the rediscovering of our humanity in a civilized and law-abiding way. And with the voice of the public behind us, we will dare to struggle and dare to win. Forever forward, one love.
When you look at it, when you're talking about abolishing the police, you know they're not going to do that. You know I mean, that's just going to be rhetoric out there, you know. But what they did try to do is they tried to piggyback on that with uncertifying, so that they couldn't get a job anywhere else once they lost their job. Right. You remember that guy that killed Oscar Grant ended up getting another police job somewhere or a security job somewhere, right? So, and because he was certified, he was able to do that. So now they're saying they've learned decertify the police. But I think the best solution out of all is the brother, Marshall, his lawyer, what his lawyer said. Marshall, George Floyd's lawyer, his family's lawyer. What is it, Crump, something like that? Crump?
Benjamin Crump.
Benjamin Crump. That brother told him, say, the best thing we can do is every time we take them to court, deplete them of their funds, hit them with that big civil suit. You know, the largest one you can hit them with. And they're going to get tired of that. They're going to get tired of giving that money away. All that money going to the black folks like that. Yeah, you fuck around and give us reparations. We keep that up because they kill so many black folks, you know, out of hand.
Well, some people have said that money should come from the police budget.
That too. That too.
Yeah, so
that would be even better.
Right.
That would be even better because they really would back off then.
Right.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad you said that because that reminds me of in Pelican Bay when we were fighting one another when we first got there. Anytime the door opened, like your door and say a white dude's door, your door and a Southern Mexican's door. I'm talking about black folks. Black folks' door and Southern Mexican, black folks' door, white, and sometimes some of them others, you know, the dudes that call themselves border brothers and all that. Sometimes with them, but anytime that door opened, you stepped on that tee and you represented with your fist or whatever you had, right? And it started happening so much. What had happened, what we found out is when you don't close the door all the way, it might register in the booth as closed, but it's not closed all the way. And once they leave it and open another door, you can just jack it open and come out there and do whatever you know had on your mind. I can't say brothers wasn't doing that, but I know that the majority of the time it happened on brothers, where dudes would snatch their door open, run out there and attack a brother. And most of them got a serious surprise. You know, they got the shit beat out of them, you know. And the only way they stop is if they fire a gun, you know. But this was going on quite regularly. They were allowing this to happen. So many fights took place that somebody wrote them up, and then it came back. Some kind of legal civil suit said, if this happens under a particular guard's watch, and they can't justify why that happened, that money is coming out of their pockets. Hey, woo, that slowed down so fast. Them fights stopped real quick. It really was an accident when it happened after that. You know, yeah, it really was. Once you start pinching that pocket, yeah, whole new attitude. But that would serve those police as well. If you hit their budgets in that way, that would serve to serve notice to them that if you continue this along this ride, then y'all gonna be broke. What you can do, even though we don't have the textbooks, what we can do is go back to the end of slavery and Reconstruction. How many blacks were in prison before the end of slavery? Right before the end of slavery, how many blacks were in prison? I bet you could count them on one hand, if any, because mostly they didn't put the brothers and sisters in prison. They murdered their ass. You know, they killed their slaves. You know, but during Reconstruction, all of a sudden, vagrancy. You know, you get a charge of vagrancy. That wouldn't be no more than an overnight in jail, to be truthful. But they take them before a court. A sheriff would take them before a court. Yeah, my prisoner. In other words, I'm getting ready to rent this boy out to the nearest plantation. You know, well, my prisoner here is arrested for vagrancy, and I think we should be lenient with him and give him 30 days. 30 days of labor. Okay, once they got them in that 30 days of labor, what happened after that? They got a rule infraction. Guess what the rule infraction did? Extended their time. They didn't have to go to court. They didn't have to go to board. They were just told, oh no, you hit that watermelon on the wrong end. You should have hit it on that end. You know, so we're gonna have to give you 6 more months of labor for that right there. Simple as that. Simple as that. And then from there, you just see how they would throw all the blacks in prison. They came up with a way to make us criminal, or not a way, but they just said we was criminals, and that was what it was, and they just started throwing our asses in jail for whatever they wanted to. And of course, the jury of our peers, them white folks, said, yeah, he did it, and sent him to jail. You know, that was the jury of our peers. You know? But that's, to me, that's how all this came about. As far as the prison system, the incarceration, it came about because they released all these slaves and they had nothing else to do with them. And the best thing they thought they could do with them was put us in jail. And you see what they did from there. They put us in jail and worked our ass. We benefited them then because we were once again slaves. 13th Amendment, slavery. Yeah. Except for, but when you look at it through the dialectics, if you want to take the history of the change, then you got to go to whatever the subject matter is and go to the beginning of that. And then, you know, say for instance, that tree right there, you know, that tree could become a sheet of paper, a pencil, but it ain't gonna just do it on its own. It got to be changed into that. And you know, the one example everybody always uses is the water, because steam, smoke like ice, solid, liquid, you know what I mean? Yeah, water, liquid, yeah. So all that's change, dialectical change. But like I said, dialectics just take you, whatever material you're talking about, you just want to go from the beginning, or like say for instance our struggle, you know. Black August is set along the theme of the first Africans that landed here in 1619 in August. We get the term New African, to us, those of us that was involved in Black August beginnings, to us, I don't know if you remember, but the first African male born over here was a brother named Antonio Williams. I think it was 1621. New African. Our origins. That's our dialectics.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where we started. In our mind, that's where we started. Managed to get out of slavery without anything. They didn't give us anything. They didn't give us anything to help us. And I mean, they might have gave some conservative blacks some of their little house people, you know, some extra funds, a little land over here and like that, right? But they didn't give us anything. Everything we've done, we had to do on our own. Every single thing we had to do on our own. And then here it is, whenever they first started doing it, what they was calling black folks lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But the worst part of it, the very worst part of it, is that when left to our own, when left to ourselves, we were segregated. We raised up towns. We raised up large community. Finance. You know how people always say black folks don't have no unity. Mm-hmm. They can't get unified. Mm-hmm. Every time we unified, every time we had a community, what happened? White folks tore it down. Every single time. Anytime black folks was getting ready to you know, end up looking like these other white folks, because that's what it would been. You know, brothers and sisters wouldn't have did nothing but emulate these white folks, but they would have had more than them, and they couldn't stand that. Especially the ones that they always get to do their dirty work. How you gonna let him have more than what you got? He took your job. You know what I mean? But So our one problem, I don't think it's unity. I think it's protecting ourselves. We don't know how to protect ourselves. Every time we raise something up, they knock it down. Just like we was talking about that Oklahoma thing. How many Oklahomas have they torn down already? You know what I mean?
Any final thoughts you want to say before we wrap it up?
In all truthfulness, this is not my lane. This is not who I am. You know, these trying to explain what we're about and all that. Brothers, I have other brothers that do far better in their job than I can, right? And people say they need to hear my voice, so I say, okay, I'll do it, you know. Even though I didn't want to, I will do it, you know, because I got to do my part, you know. And my part is throwing whatever I can shed, you know, then shed light on whatever I can shed it on, then that's what I got to do, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can't stop, won't stop.
That's right.